Hello and welcome to the third half podcast by 876 Stream. My name is Jamal Tucker. Not the usual face you're expecting to see, I'm sure, but Christopher Scott is away. Javon Gapour is back. Gap, how are you? Where were you last week?
I'm well, JFF had me stressed, so I had to take a week off.
Well, I don't know how much good that did you because it's All right, but today is Saturday, October 9th, and we are discussing a few things. We're looking at the 30-man shortlist for the Ballon d'Or this year. Reggae Boyz, they've been poor in the qualifiers so far. The UEFA Nations League finalists have been decided. And Gapour has some stuff that he's stressed about. You're listening to the third half podcast by 876 Stream, and we'll be back after the whistle. All right, Gap, let's get to it right away. First thing that we're going to talk about is the Ballon d'Or. I feel like that's something that everybody gets interested about.
Right.
It's lost some of its sheen over the years, but it's still a worthy talking point. So this year we have 30 names to discuss. Tell me who you think might get the prize. We're going to put it up somewhere on screen. So if you're watching, you'll see it. I'll run through the names in a minute. But just off the top of your head, who you think is deserving of the prize?
You know what it is? Before I say that, I said this. This year list, when I look at this year list and look at who are the top contenders,
Right.
it brought me to a realization that we've taken advantage of Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi.
Maybe.
I feel like we haven't appreciated them as much as we should have. Well, me personally, I feel like that because looking at the list,
The numbers look normal.
like,
Yeah.
you get me?
Yeah.
Like what these guys are doing over the years, it became the norm for us. But it's not, and it shows now that they were just on a different level.
Right now, we're looking at, as you said, normal players with normal seasons. With some of the key names involved, Karim Benzema, Kevin De Bruyne, Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, Gigi Donnarumma, Bruno Fernandes, Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, Jorginho, N'Golo Kante, Simon Kjaer. I'm sure that is because of the Christian Eriksen thing at the Euros. It's a good move by UEFA, but realistically, he's probably not
It's
in the running.
sentimental.
Yeah, it is.
Sentimental.
I don't mind it, mind you, but so he's probably not in the running for it. But nice touch by FIFA. Sorry. So Robert Lewandowski, now he's a real contender. Romelu Lukaku, Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi. And I thought an interesting one was Gerard Moreno. He got mentioned. That's the Villarreal forward. He had a brilliant season last season, culminated in not only a Spain call-up, but also a Europa League title
Right.
at the expense of Manchester United. A final that he scored in, by the way.
Right.
So he actually brought it to penalties before ultimately they won on penalties. So he had a good year. Some of these guys had better years, but for me, looking at the list, a couple names jump out at me. So a lot of people spoke about Jorginho and N'Golo Kante before we saw the final list.
Right.
Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo cannot be overlooked, no matter how regular they seem now. Of course, their regular or their subpar is everyone else's goals.
Right.
So, and then I think one of the interesting ones here is Erling Haaland and, of course, Lewandowski. And Karim Benzema also interests me. Why I think Erling Haaland is because a lot of times over the years we found that the leading goal scorer for the Champions League tends to be either the winner or very close to being the winner.
Right.
And he scored 10 goals in the Champions League, better than anybody else last season. And of course he was named the best forward for the season as well. So, and he's had a brilliant season. He's had a brilliant career since he really burst onto the scene. So that's one. Karim Benzema, it's criminal how people overlooked him during the BBC years at Real Madrid. Benzema genuinely has been a very, very good player for a long time.
Right.
He was just playing beside Ronaldo, and so
and it was at the time when Ronaldo and Messi was, doing these,
right. So it's hard to
abnormal
really
stuff.
compare what he did before to what Ronaldo was doing.
Right.
But now without Ronaldo there and without Messi in the league either, you realize that, hey, Benzema is pretty good, isn't he? you know, and then he, of course, he got that famous call back to France,
Right.
which I thought was brilliant,
And deserved.
and he's been doing well since he got back as well. I think Lewandowski though really has the biggest claim to it because this is a man that should have won last year.
Criminal.
Can we agree with that?
Definitely.
Should have won last year. There was no reason. I can't fathom it. There was no reason why the Ballon d'Or should have been cancelled last year.
Right. Could have easily been virtual.
Could have easily been virtual. Other things were.
Right.
You know, but he didn't win it. And I think maybe, and he's not had a bad season, bad time since, because he's still been going pretty strong. So I think maybe he has a strong claim to it because they might think, oh, well, he should have gotten it last year. He's still doing well. Maybe we should just give it to him on the balance of the two seasons. But that's my take. What's your take?
I totally agree with that. As you say, even for this season, he's still breaking records,
Right.
you know, for Bayern Munich,
Right.
being the top scorer for them and all of that. So he's still going in the grain of form that he had last season.
Right,
it's not
right.
like he's dropped off any at all. But for some reason, he's the one I agree I want to win. I think should win. But for some reason, and this is critical to what I said earlier about us valuing Christian Messi.
Right.
I think Jorginho is going to win.
Yeah?
And Jorginho is not even top 20 player in the world.
You really think Jorginho has...
Yeah, because of the team success. You know, the teams that he played for. He played for Chelsea. He was a main part of the Chelsea team, you know, that got rejuvenated with Tommy Tickles and won the Champions League, went to the Euros with Italy. He's a part of that team that's been unbeaten, you know, hardly conceded and all of that. He was in that middle of the pitch for them, and he won the Euros as well. So in terms of accomplishment team-wise, he's won the most and the highest, you know, level of competition. So I think with that, and seeing that I still have PTSD from Madrid winning it because I still don't understand why. Well, I get the rationale behind it, but I don't agree with it.
Okay, all right.
So
because I think it was a good year for him to win it.
Yeah, but just like Jorginho, he wasn't even top 10 in the world in terms of football. And Ballon d'Or for me is the best player in the world, who has been the best player for that season, for that year. And he wasn't that. Jorginho isn't that, but I think he's going to win.
So that's your bet.
Yes, that's what I'd bet on.
All right. I still think Lewandowski, for the reasons that we established. But, you know, of course, you can't have a Ballon d'Or conversation and not talk about Ronaldo and Messi.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, Ronaldo was the top scorer. He got the award anyway for Euros that just ended. And he also broke the international goal scoring record. Right? There's much dispute about whether or not he's the outright leading scorer ever. You know, the Romarios and the Peles of the world will tell you otherwise. But there's no disputing what he's done on an international level. There's no disputing what he's done in like certain competitions, Champions League, Euros, because that was, of course, scoring when he did was monumentous in and of itself. Never mind the fact that he actually did it more than anybody else in the last competition. So there's that. Messi, of course, still put up crazy numbers, and with him not at Barcelona now, you realize just how really impressive that was. You know, do they have a shout?
The thing for me with Cristiano Ronaldo, you see, is he put up the number, and for me, he has been the best player in the world. Well, the second best next to Lewandowski for last season. However, you are at a Juventus team that's been winning the league for years and years before you got there, and since you got there, you didn't win last year, right? Normally, you bet that Juventus win that league, so that in itself is a failure. You're right. You know, it's quote unquote a failure.
Disappointment would be accurate though.
Right, exactly. And then he had a great Euros, but the team didn't do that well compared to the other contenders. So things like that is what I think is going to be, you know, the downfall for Cristiano Ronaldo. As for Messi, it's the same thing. I mean, he won the Copa America with Argentina.
Kudos to him for that first
his first international trophy. So that's a big plus. But again, on the club level, Barcelona didn't really achieve much. They didn't win the... Atletico Madrid actually won the league. They didn't went that far in the Champions League either. You know, so it's just a disappointing year for both of them in terms of trophies. But so that I think that goes against them.
Before we move on, just one quick question. Give me a short answer. Changing of the guard?
Yes.
I agree.
It's not fabulous. It's not good, but it is.
Sometimes it's less a ceremony and just a ripping of the band-aid.
Right.
You know,
right.
Mbappe and Haaland are both on this, and they're heir apparent to both of them. So I'm sure in time it'll be the two of them duking it out for that. Maybe not too long either, because they're both very good players right now.
Right.
So probably 2 years time it'll be them going up for it. But all right, let's move on. Speaking of ripping off the band-aid, we probably should get into the Reggae Boyz right now, right? Talk about some of the disappointment, let's call it that. So simply put, the road to Qatar has gotten off to a bumpy start, and we are now at the base of the qualification group after 4 games. There's still 10 games to go, but it's not looked very good. Quick assessment of how you feel about these games that have passed?
In the past, I've done IG lives. I talk about the Jamaica national, the federation, a lot, and the team. And initially, you know what it is? My initial reaction to it all was Tapa is out of his depth.
Right.
But in thinking about it, Tapa didn't hire himself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The JFF, and I'm going to get further into this later in a later segment, but the JFF is the reason we're performing the way we're performing. And you'll understand why later in the show. But I think overall, the performances, we've been outperformed in team selections, starting 11s, tactics, effort, and also scorelines. We've been demolished in all categories of football. And it's disappointing because, again, it's a golden generation for us. Like, it doesn't get any better. Well, I hope it does, but history suggests this is it. This is the pinnacle of our football.
So then, this was going to be my first question. I was going to ask you, is it the players? Do you think that the squad that we have now is better than we've had years past, and as it compares to the rivals that we have now?
It can't be the players. Reason being,
yeah,
one of the best teams in CONCACAF is US.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to do a combined 11 with USA and Jamaica, off the top of my head, I can name 4 players that will definitely. It's no argument. They are definitely in that combined 11 from Jamaica,
right.
And we can argue a couple more. Right? That in itself means that the players are not the problem. The quality of the players that we have is not the problem.
Right.
You know, just to list the 4, it's Liam Bailey, of course, Antonio, Blake, and of course, Pinnock, the centre back.
Okay.
So
no, David. Well, I guess
we can argue those. So you get what I'm saying. So the player is not the players are far from the issue that we have here.
Yeah.
What's his face? I'm drawing blank. Leon Bailey's father.
Craig
Butler. He made mention and he was critical of the tactics and how JFF go about things far beyond before we even start thinking about disqualification. And it's showing that there's no system at all in place.
Right.
And you get to the point where it's just okay. You know, you stop arguing about it, you stop stressing out about it, and you just say, okay, it's...
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. In a word, disappointed. And to make it longer, I don't feel like I'm surprised. And that in and of itself is what is disappointing.
Right.
You know, because it's one thing to not actually have the results. It's another thing to have the tools and not know how to use them.
Right.
You know? And so we're in a position now where, a position at the bottom of the table, where we have these players, and like you said, the players are good enough. I agree with you. I think the players are good enough. The players are good enough. And we'll come to the management in a while. This is the team itself, and the federation is a different argument. But in terms of what they're actually giving on the field,
right.
You know, and I don't mean in terms of spirit or fight or anything like that. I just mean in terms of how they look playing the game. It doesn't look good. And so I'm looking at, and I'm just thinking that this cannot be the best possible way to use the players that we have.
Right.
You pick 23 man right now, 10 man you think, well, why you never in the team?
Right, exactly.
You get me?
Yeah, team selection has been horrible.
But even if it, because at the end of the day, only 11 man can play on the field at a time.
Right.
And only certain amount can be in the squad at a time.
Right.
So, say for whatever reason, this is the 23 you're going. Fine, we'll work with it. But then once they actually get on the field, you think, well, then what was the thought process behind getting these players in?
Right.
You know? As for the games themselves, how I feel about them, the Mexico game was hard. I can't complain too much about that because that was a situation where the result went against us, but the performance was decent.
It's our best performance so far.
I think so. I think we should have won the Costa Rica game. And it's not because the performance was better then. It's just we did enough then to have won. And then somehow we ended up only drawing. Panama game is, best left unsaid.
Please.
The USA game the other day, that was... Here's the thing. You go up against USA as Jamaica, you don't expect to win. That's the truth.
Fair.
You don't expect to win. You hope that you can win or get a result.
Right.
But you never actually expect to win.
Fair enough.
You get me? And it's worse yet in qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers. We tend to struggle particularly against them in competitive games. So that's just what it is. So I wasn't so torn by it. It's just that we started the first half as well as we did. And we came to the second half, and it just went to hell after that.
I think the early goal had something to do with that. Conceding so early in the second half.
I mean, I suppose it. No, well, here's the thing. There are certain times that they say are the best times to score in a game. Just before halftime, just after halftime, are among the top times to score in a game.
Right.
So we managed to keep them out all of the first half. Although we clearly were trying to give them a goal. Give them advantages as well because we could have gotten two red cards.
Right.
But then we start the second half and fine, them steal one on you just a couple minutes after the break. That's not the best, but you have time to rescue the situation.
Correct.
Remember, that's what happened in Mexico. So we had time to rescue the situation. They just never looked like they were going to do it. At no point. I think I actually ended up getting a phone call during the game. And I was more interested in the phone call than watching the game. Because there was nothing to see.
And you know what it is? It's clear, on the pitch, it's clear to see when the manager has lost the team. In effort,
in tactics or
overall, like the effort that they put in, it shows how much they're willing to fight for the manager. And you should want to fight for it's a country you're playing for.
Right.
And the effort that is on the pitch is not good enough. And I think that they're humans.
Yeah.
Of course, yes, you're wearing the badge, fight, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're human. And if you have certain reservations to the person that is leading you out, it's going to show at some point, being human.
So the second question, is it the manager, you think? So that my question, is it the manager? I was wondering if Tapa is the man to lead us to the World Cup. And you're saying now that he shouldn't even be the one leading them out of the tunnel.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying?
Right.
So is it just personality or is it tactics? Is it what? What are you saying that he's not?
First of all, you know what ticks me off?
What?
Every day you come out in these games and you're wearing tracksuit. It's not a big... Yeah, cool. But that in itself, to me, I don't like see it. I personally don't like seeing it. Don't come out in a big match. World Cup qualifications wearing tracksuit.
So you don't want them wear?
Wear suit. Wear a suit. Look like a man that come prepared and ready for war, for battle, tactically. You see me? I don't want you to be my friend right now. You're not the players. Don't be their friends right now. Lead them out to war. And that just the appearance alone throw me off every day, every time.
It's a personal thing.
Personal thing. As it relates to tactics, it's only my negative 2.0. You know what I mean? Like it's just non-existent. And then in the effort side of it, you have to motivate your players, man. Yeah. You don't have the tactics cool. Ole can tell you how much time him come on and score, and him can tell you how to score a goal, blah, 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 whatever. Right. He can motivate someone, and his thing is man management, that Ole. At least give us that, give us a little, people say, yeah, he's a motivational speaker, whatever. The guys latch on to him, they take what he says into heart and show on the field. There's no effort there, so he's not even doing that.
Tapa is even doing that.
So he's not even doing that, so what's the point of him being there?
I tell you something. I saw a quote somewhere recently where I think it was Julian Nagelsmann, Bayern Munich's coach. He said that coaching is 30% tactics and 70% social convention or something to that effect. So basically, it's like it's 30% tactics, knowing how to set up a team and all those things, and then the next 70% is actually just dealing with people, and maybe getting your points across, understanding the players, you're dealing with that sort of thing. Seeing that, I not without being too harsh, I thought of what the percentage distribution would be for Tapper. I get the impression that he does come across relatively well with the players. So of that 70%, he'd probably have somewhere around 35 to 40, I think, right? Because maybe for example, a man like Javon Watson, Nana, even Leon Bailey, some of these more local players, or at least these guys that are entrenched in the culture a particular way, they can see Tapper and relate with Tapper.
Fair.
But then maybe some man's like Antonio, Roof, Jamal Lowe, you get me, coming from overseas, they may not relate as easily.
Right.
I gather a man like Dexter Daps, that's Bobby Reed, he would have grown up a particular way, not too dissimilar from how we would have grown up here in Jamaica, with an extended family. So him having mother and him auntie them will come from Boya. So him can mesh a particular way. Daniel Johnson as well. I think he was actually born in Kingston. So these are guys that probably could handle a little more. But then there's still a disconnect in terms of getting all the way there. Like I said, 35 to 40%.
Right.
In terms of tactics, I think he's not looking at more than 10%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. He's not looking at more than 10%, to be fair.
Right.
I'm now 30% is a small figure, so it takes a lot to actually get all the way to the 30%, I think. And yeah, 10%, and like I said, that's a lot, because that's a third.
Right.
And he's probably not all the way to a third, but he has. So what I'm saying is that's if you take even 40% of the social part and 10% of the tactics, which is like we said, the top for him.
Pushing it.
Right. You're looking at 50%. You can't be half a manager and go to the World Cup.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's not his fault. He didn't hire himself.
And something I often defend him, because at the end of the day, he's working within a system. And by system, I mean like just the way that we do things here in Jamaica and how things are done.
Right.
That isn't ideal for most, if any, manager.
Correct.
So it's not as though he's a top manager coming in, and it's not as though he's working within a brilliant system. He's neither of those two things. Right? So, and at the end of the day, he turns up every day in a tracksuit or otherwise to do the job in front of him. And I don't think he's faking it. I don't think he's giving only 20% of his effort.
His effort, right.
I genuinely believe he's doing what he's doing at the full extent of what he can do.
Right.
At the end of the day, he got us to the Gold Cup finals twice.
Right.
So, he has something that he's doing. The problem is, and I think this is where the issue lies now with Tapper in this current team. Back then, with those guys from those Gold Cup finals, those would have been players that were not all the way there either. So it wouldn't take anything for Tapper to get them there.
Right.
Now we're dealing with players that are actually pretty high level.
Right.
And it's not just the foreign ones. Some of our local players too are pretty high level. I mean, man like Speedy, he's captaining a team in the USL.
Right.
It's not the Barclays Premier, it's not the English Premier League, mind you, but to captain a team,
a professional
team,
right,
at any level is still impressive, and it still says a lot about what you are as a player,
right.
And then of course some of these other guys that are playing in good teams and are playing as star players in their teams, that comes with responsibilities and comes with all of these things. So these are top players, I think. You kind of know, like you kind of see where they've outgrown a manager like Tapper. Now it's a case where with these kind of players, you require a certain kind of manager to lead them. Take, for example, this happens at all levels, folks. It's not a matter of Jamaica being Jamaica. Rafa Benitez went to Madrid to go coach Madrid. And one of the first things him look upon Luka Modric and tell him is stop playing the ball with the outside of your foot. Luka Modric, him tell Modric to stop kick ball outside of your foot. I tell him same if you use the inside of your foot. like say this man no grow up and play football for the whole of his life and don't know how to play ball game.
At the highest level as well.
Him got look for Ronaldo and tell Ronaldo, alright, try and take the free kicks like this. Cristiano Ronaldo, him could have kicked it over the bar little more.
Right.
You can't tell the man to take free kick or play football at any at all. And so that he never lasted long. Why?
Right.
Because he's not the kind of manager that can manage a group like that. So it's not a Jamaica thing. It's not even a Tapa thing. This is just the reality. A manager of a certain level would not be able to work with a team or players of a certain level. And when you're playing in a system that is dictated by an organization that doesn't give you the best of health either, these are the results that we get.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I take that point a bit further. David Moyes, when he went to Manchester United, there's this rumor going around that he said to Ferdinand, you know, Jagielka would have been there. And it's like, from that moment, you know, Moyes wasn't going to stay very long.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it's a rumor, as I said, but I don't know how true it is. You know, like things like that, it shows that there's a ceiling, there's a cap for every manager. And I think we've found the cap for Tapa.
Okay.
You know.
Right. So moving on from that, we'll get into, I'm sure, your favorite segment. You are annoyed by something again, and this time you're gonna take it out on who? Jeff. All right. So this segment is called That No Make Sense. Javon Gapour, him say it don't make sense. But we hear him say, see if that makes sense. What don't make sense this week?
Jamal, there are a couple of things that don't make sense to me. First of all, just a simple question. How old is Javon Watson? Very is the answer, right? Very. Cool. No, you're going to say, what? Yeah, he's a professional player. He should be sharp and fit and ready to play. What team he plays for again? How many games have he played this season?
I can't tell you.
Probably around 2,
but,
at most.
It's not a lot.
So why was he the person sitting in the middle of my field against United States of America the other day?
You're sure enough.
Cool. Fair enough. Fair point. Now, I see a lot of people calling for the head of Tapa. Makes sense. That does make sense. He needs to go. No, what doesn't make sense to me is the reason why Tapa is the man in charge. No, the mantra of JFF is we're broke. Right? We're broke. Okay, cool. I take it. When it comes to us seeing your financials and all of that, you're very confidential with it. So I can't say for sure. No, what I can tell you though is that there's no reason for me to be paying Tapa $3,000 US a month, and that which equates to like $33,000 a year. And the next best team next to us in terms of roster, I'd say is USA, Mexico. USA's coach is making $1.3 million per year. What is the cause of the drop-off? Well, you can say experience and he is more versed, he has a higher rank. Then get someone with the same rank because we have the same roster. Or it's comparable. You know, we can't, if we do a combined 11 right now, United States, Jamaica, 5 man in the Jamaica team has to be in that combined 11. You know, so in terms of quality, we have the same quality, or damn near. So why is it that the coach drop-off is so far apart? No, you're going to say we don't have money to hire someone else. Cool. No, when you're playing these 14 games to qualify, you get $2 million US for preparation. Again, United States is paying 1.3 million. Now, if you qualify for the World Cup, which you will if you hire a competent coach, you definitely will, you get another $9.5 million. Now, if you go one further than United States and say I'm going to pay 1.5 million for a better coach than what United States has, 1.5 from 9.5, financially, we're talking finance now, you have 8 million left. Now you pay the player them roughly $3,000 a year, a game, per game, right? So we are looking for 14 games, for 23 players, we're looking at around, call it $1 million, it's like 966,000, right? Call it $1 million, let's round it up. Now that's $7 million you have left. right? Now we're going to say everybody else, the president and everybody, when you pay everybody, we are giving a $2 million, which should be like 500,000, right? But we are giving $2 million to spend on everything. You're left with 5 million. No. What is the reason? And remember now, people, we don't mention sponsorship yet. We have to come into play when we start. If we have a good quality and good product out there, where I'm getting at is this. The reason why we cannot afford the manager that is needed to bring this team where it needs to be is because the product that we release is poor. It's very poor and it's annoying. I'm not going to spend much more time on it. It's very annoying, JFF. The product needs to be better. It's no reason out there for United States to have such a big gap in the manager that they have to what we have. And you're going to tell me that it's because we're broke. That don't make no sense to me, JFF. It doesn't. Please improve your product. The money is there for you if the product is right. And financially it makes sense, brother. Why how it not make sense to you financially? To find the money needed to pay these people what they need to be paid and get to the World Cup. We're going to waste a very big, huge golden generation of talent because we're broke. No make sense.
So then, how do you suggest that the product improves? Because I'm sure somebody from the outside looking in could say the same thing. But then, like, what do you actually do?
First of all, there's been this argument about the style of play of Jamaica. What is the style of play of Jamaica? Do we have a system in place? The answer for years, decades have been no. Why is it still no? First of all, why is that the answer to that question still no?
Okay.
Improve on that. No, you have something to work with. No, there's something physical for persons, sponsors to look at and say, the system is great. It's a great system. Do we have a good system in place? One from the millions of sponsors we can get. Say, all right, cool. Let me take a chance with this. Now you have the chance with that. You find the right manager for that system that you've developed. And now other sponsorship come and say, manager, and well, the system look like it, or blah, blah, blah. We start winning games now. More sponsors come in. That's more money. The better the quality of product is, the better the income will be, the revenue will be. Now again, you're very confidential with the books. I don't know where you guys lie because, if you don't want, you can invite me over to the headquarters one of these days and, explain to me the expenses. Because maybe there are things that I'm missing out, and fair enough. But looking at the revenue side of it, which is publicly known, that you get from FIFA, there's no reason for you to tell me that we're broke. None.
All right. Well, you see, my issue with everything is I think it's twofold, right? Mm-hmm. The JFF has responsibility for sure, but I think part of it too is the mental side of it. The culture that we have here locally isn't as conducive as it needs to be to these kind of changes. Okay. Because for one thing, you're talking about the infrastructure, the facilitating of football and its development in the country, which is JFF's responsibility. But then you can't force a man, you get me, for do certain things. And that I think is the problem, in the sense that we have a particular culture that is kind of hard-headed against some of these things. And then two is not as... I'll give you working examples.
Okay.
The team, and we spoke about it earlier in the podcast, we've spoken about it in different spaces. The team and the players, sometimes you wonder about their commitment, the drive that they have. You get me? How serious they are about certain things. Players in our highest level of football in Jamaica, with the Jamaica Premier League, there are some questionable characters right throughout that entire competition, right? Yeah. All the players involved there. So you really have to wonder about what they take seriously and how they actually approach the game, right? These are things that overseas, in more developed countries, more developed football countries I'm talking, these things don't, they happen because they're people are people, right? But the vast majority, or at least the general consensus, is a kind of conducive mindset, a professionalism, a seriousness about these things. Now we talk about them developing a system of play, right? When we talk about develop a system of play, that's not just take up the big man them and go do.
Okay.
We already know, because Tapa said it the other day, but we already know if you want to actually create a system, right, a national system of play and things throughout the football in the country, that requires starting from the youth level, under 15, under 17, under 20, even earlier, right? And to do that, that requires some sort of specialized, institutionalized development. But you talk about under 15, under 20, under 17. Man, where I go high school, little youth where they're primary school, you get me? And I tell them, say them for come, left them schoolwork, for come a training for however long. You get me? Or wake up extra early for go training before school. And then train after school. You get me? And then homework for do and school for go the next day. Which mother and father you think are going to make you go do that? Because football is just an extracurricular activity. It's not a path. It's not an option for mobility, social mobility. Mm-hmm. You get me? It's just an extracurricular activity. If you happen to be good at it, then you happen to be good at it. That's basically how it's often seen. You get me? In fact, we look at even some of the same players that play in the Jamaica Premier League and think of them as being some sort of, what left of society. Because them take them time going to play football before them get you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? So it's like you're talking about changing a culture, and I can't honestly say that the JFF should be doing something about that, because how can you tell a man to change his mind? You can bring certain things to them that can convince them a particular way, and that's where the two can come together. But if you ask me, that part of it, right? Because the mindset has to change so that we can do things differently. And then the system has to be in place that things can be done in a different way. Mm-hmm. And neither of them are coming together right now. But only the system is being blamed. And I don't think that's a fair representation of the full scope of the problem.
Okay. And all of that is good and all, right? The pyramid, you should start from the base of the pyramid and work up.
Right.
Fair enough. Let's use this example. Manchester United, before the season ended last season, the expectation, before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer took over, the expectation would have been be steady in Champions League action. Now, and even after the signings in the summer, it's a challenge for the title. Now, at the end of the transfer window, you got Cristiano Ronaldo. It's no longer a challenge for the title. It is, you have to win the title.
Okay.
Or you're gone.
Right.
It's the same thing for Jamaica. Yes, it's good and all. We need the youth system and all of that to build the system and all. We have the talent now without the youth system and all of that. We have the talent now. The expectation moves from try to win, try to get to the World Cup. You have to get to the World Cup. By the hook or the crook, you have to get to the World Cup. And that's where we're at with it now. So yeah, in the long run, what you're saying makes sense. But for now, to get the revenue needed to put all of those things in place, you have to be winning games. Win games.
Yeah.
You have the talent, win games.
Yeah.
So you telling me we're broke? No makes sense to me. It does not make sense.
I take your point, and truthfully, I don't think you've said anything that is too wide of the mark. And frankly, I agree with most of what you're saying. So I won't argue with you. You say it don't make sense, and it doesn't make much sense night either. So we leave it at that. But thank you very much for listening to the Third Half podcast by 876 Stream. My name is Jamal Tucker. That's Javon Gapour. He didn't tell you what it makes sense. Me just tell you what he said. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Stream876 and on Instagram at 876Stream. Check out our website, 876stream.com. We have a lot of articles on these topics and more, written by myself, Brian Pitto, and some of our other writers and contributors. Remember to follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're probably watching it now. And also this podcast will be available in audio form on Spotify and Anchor.com. So I suppose until the next half, this is where we end. Thanks for listening.